At first light on the quiet outskirts of Edenwood, pale sunlight slipped between the branches of old trees, spilling over a sidewalk littered with brittle leaves and slow-moving shadows. The city slept in its Sunday chill, except for one man. Marcus Gray, 68, walked with a soldier's posture in an old army coat dulled by years. His right hand tapped a white cane along the cracked brick path, his left feeling each step as if the pavement itself were an old friend. Blind eyes, but a face at ease, as though he was performing a daily ritual known only to him. He wasn't out to shop or meet anyone. He walked to listen to the breath of the world, to birdsong behind weathered roofs, to the distant hum of traffic like the low chorus of life. But this morning, the world answered him with a sound that didn't belong. A police siren, shrill, slicing through the quiet like a blade. 3 cruisers tore into the street, tires shrieking, spitting grit into the air. A mother yanked her child inside. A dog barked, then stopped. Curtains twitched, silence thickened. The first cruiser braked hard in front of him. Doors slammed. 4 white officers, none older than 30, spilled out like they were hunting a terrorist. Guns leveled. One barked, voice taut with adrenaline and performance. "Stop right there. Police. Don't move." Marcus paused for a heartbeat, just long enough to know someone stood before him. No fear, only a slight turn of his head toward the voice. "Hands up, old man. You've got blood on you. You just left the scene, didn't you? You're our suspect." He raised his hands slowly, deliberately. "I don't know where the blood came from," he said, voice low and steady, like wood knocking against stone. "Maybe I brushed against something, but I haven't harmed anyone. Don't throw accusations without proof. Where's your integrity?" There it was, dark stains across the right sleeve of his coat.
Wait a second. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us.
Red against worn gray. He didn't know how it got there. He knew it wasn't from violence. The officers laughed, sharp, mocking. The youngest, a blonde with a high and tight cut, stepped forward, gripping Marcus by the collar. His breath reeked of nicotine and swagger. "Guys like you always have excuses. But today, you're done. Be smart and don't make us teach you a lesson." Marcus didn't flinch. "You should think twice before laying a hand on me." The blonde barked a laugh. "You threatening me? A blind old black man threatening the police?" Before the others could blink, he shoved Marcus hard in the shoulder, only to find himself twisted, arm wrenched behind his back in one precise, fluid motion. Pain shot through him. He dropped to his hands with a yell. The street froze. 3 guns rose. Marcus released him without a word, standing straight, calm. Blind eyes, soldier's reflex. Another officer lunged, slamming him to the ground. Cold cuffs bit into his wrists. A hard yank pulled him up, a gun cocked near his ear. The charge resisting arrest. No one asked again. No one wanted evidence. Blind, black, blood on his sleeve. A single act of resistance. That was enough. From windows, neighbors watched in silence. Some filmed, others muttered. "Knew it. Looks harmless, but dangerous. Blind doesn't mean innocent. Look at him." Good thing the cops came fast. Timmy, the boy who once sat on the curb listening to Marcus tell war stories, stood frozen, clutching his backpack, eyes red. The cruiser sped off, scattering dead leaves in its wake. Marcus was now the prime suspect in a killing less than an hour old on nothing but a stain, a reflex in the color of his skin. What came next? No one knew. Only Marcus, once a shadow on the battlefield, understood. This was another war, and it was being fought in the heart of the very country he'd once bled for. In the western edge of Edenwood, where gray walls sag under moss, and tangled power lines hang like the veins of some dying giant, there was a ground-floor apartment buried in the shadow of a dead circus. No number, no doorbell. It belonged to Marcus Gray. He lived alone, utterly alone. No friends, no family, no visitors. To the kids, he was the strange blind man. To the adults, a useless shell. Even the housing workers avoided him. Tech, an oil slick. Silent, dark, it's better not to touch. No welfare checks. He survived on scraps, supermarket clerks slipping leftovers beside the dumpster after dark, or a styrofoam box from the hurried hands of a charity volunteer. And he never complained. Every morning, 6 o'clock sharp, cane in hand, he left to circle the block. "Why do you still go for walks if you can't see?" a neighbor's boy once asked. Marcus had only smiled, brushing a hand to his ear. To hear the world. It sings a new song every day. But the boy's parents dragged him away. "Don't look at him. That man's not right. Stare too long and he'll suck the soul right out of you." And so, piece by piece, Marcus became a shape. People defined only by absence of sight, of worth, of a voice worth hearing. The day they arrested him, news vans swarmed in. Tabloids screamed, "Blind killer strolls away from murder scene. Monster in our midst." The only photo, him in cuffs, hauled away. Milky eyes like shattered glass. Blood smeared on his sleeve. Nobody knew who he was. His anonymity made him the perfect canvas for fear. At the station, in a damp interrogation room, he sat chained to a cold steel table, eyes fixed on the nowhere before him. The young officers smirked. "Blind, huh? Guess you didn't see the man you killed," the blonde one jeered. Marcus stayed silent. "Or maybe you're faking it," another said, slapping the table. "Playing cripple so nobody suspects you." He turned his head toward the voice. His reply was measured, each word steady. "I killed no one. I was walking. If there's blood on me, it came from someone brushing past. I didn't even know a murder happened." The laughter was loud, derisive. "We've heard it 100 times, old man. You're charged with murder and resisting arrest. You really think catching a blind black man with a bloodstain is your ticket to promotion?" His tone sank, as if he'd known this game all his life. The blonde slammed the table. "We're just doing our job. Shut your mouth." They put him in isolation, a box barely larger than a cot. No windows, no light, no lawyer, no next of kin to call. The only thing in his pocket was an old military binnon, dismissed as a piece of rusted junk. No one came to defend him. No reporter asked questions. No neighbor spoke. To them he was that strange blind man. And now, a murderer. Day 1, no food. Forgot his tray, the guard said. Day 2, no water. Day 3, the AC roared at 10 degrees all night. Psychological games, ordered to leave no marks, designed to break him. When they marched him down the hall for a welfare check, he heard their laughter. "Blind beast. Black witch," one joked. "I heard he used to be a Navy SEAL." "Yeah, a cartoon." Marcus sat still, but his heartbeat stayed even. It reminded him he was alive, and he would not let ignorance finish what war had failed to do. Outside, the accusations spread like wildfire. Social media shared his arrest photo. "Scary. Blind, but still killed someone. Proof you can't trust anybody." The news spun its own fable. Mysterious recluse, a cold-blooded killer, hiding in plain sight for No one asked why he had no lawyer. No one asked how a blind man could find his way to commit murder and leave unseen. They didn't want answers. They wanted a villain. And a click. Marcus curled in the dark, listening. Every sound: guards' footsteps on worn tile, the scritch of a rat in the wall, a long, tired yawn he stored away. It was how he'd stayed alive his whole life. On the second floor of the Edenwood Police Department, the air was warm, smug, and full of cheap laughter, worlds apart from the freezing cell downstairs where Marcus Gray sat in the dark. "You seriously didn't see him twist your arm like that, Troy?" The blonde officer grinned as he retold the only moment during the arrest when the old man had fought back. Kyle, chewing on a sandwich, barked a laugh. "I thought my wrist snapped. Blind and still that strong? Man, you're unlucky." In the corner, Daryl was turning a small, worn badge over in his hands, letting it catch the light. Found this in his coat pocket, he said. Some kind of seal thing. Seal? Like the animal? Kyle snorted. Maybe he worked at an aquarium when he was young. Probably just a toy. Old blind guys keep all kinds of junk. Daryl tossed it onto the table. It spun once before rolling into the edge of a file folder. No one cared until the door opened. A tall man stepped in, dark navy uniform. Silver stars on his shoulders. Hair steel gray and clipped close. Richard Halbrook, the chief himself, and the one man everyone in the building feared. He scanned the room. His eyes stopped on the badge. "Whose is that?" His voice wasn't loud, but it emptied the air from the room. Daryl shrugged. "Belongs to the blind guy we just booked." "Name?" Not sure. Marcus something." Halbrook crossed the room, picked up the badge and turned it over. Beneath the rust, a faint engraving caught the light. Macy G. Marcus Gray. His expression darkened. "God damn it," he looked up, voice sharp. "Do you know what this is?" Blank stares. No one gets this badge unless they're a Navy SEAL. Lieutenant rank or higher. And this, he held it up, is the real thing. Troy stammered. "But he's blind. How could—" "That's exactly why I remember the name," Halbrook cut in. He yanked open a terminal and typed quickly into the federal military database. A red banner flashed across the screen. Name Marcus Gray. Rank Lieutenant, SEAL Special Operations. Status, missing in action. Syria. Declared. The old service photo filled the monitor. Even a decade younger, the jaw was sharp, the nose straight, and the gaze unflinching. "Holy," one officer whispered. Halbrook turned, ice in his voice. "You idiots just arrested, assaulted, and mocked a decorated war hero. A SEAL. A man this country declared dead in service." Before they could respond, a patrol unit uploaded fresh footage from a civilian dashcam near the crime scene. Clear as day, a white man in a gray hoodie, blood on his hands, stumbling out of an alley. From the opposite side of the street, Marcus Gray walked slowly, cane in hand, unaware. The man slammed into him, smearing blood on his sleeve before vanishing from frame. No knife, no attack, just a collision. Halbrook's jaw tightened. Run facial recognition. "I want him in custody within 12 hours. They had him at 8. Robert Vellner, 33, priors for smuggling, gambling, and meth, was pulled out of a motel on the city's edge. Faced with the video he cracked, I panicked. We'd been fighting, and I stabbed him. Didn't mean to kill him. Then I saw this blind guy coming. Thought no one saw me, so I ran." That night, Halbrook walked into the isolation cell. Marcus sat straight-backed on the floor, thin but unbent. "Mr. Gray," Halbrook said quietly. "I'm Richard Halbrook, police chief." Marcus tilted his head but said nothing. "We arrested the wrong man. The real suspect confessed. And I learned you were a SEAL, Lieutenant." A small nod. Then Marcus lifted his face, eyes blind but voice steady. "So, someone finally looked under the dust." Halbrook held his gaze, even if Marcus couldn't see it. "I'm sorry for all of it." News spread like a brush fire in drought. Within 24 hours of Robert Vellner's full confession, headlines lit up every news outlet in the state. Blind man wrongfully arrested was a missing Navy SEAL from a classified operation. A hero smeared. One wrong warrant, a lifetime of humiliation. The wrongful arrest that shook the state. Who's to blame? Photos of Marcus Gray in prison clothes. Hands cuffed at the waist. Beard shadowing his jaw. A crust of dried blood across his forehead circulated everywhere. Underneath, thousands of comments seethed. How could anyone treat a man like this like trash? This is America? A SEAL locked up like a thug? Those young cops should be the ones in a cell. Back in the neighborhood where people once crossed the street to avoid him, shame hung heavy. Parents who had yanked their kids away from him couldn't meet a camera's lens. Veterans groups stepped in. The National SEAL Advocacy Council sent representatives to meet with Chief Richard Halbrook and federal agencies. The result? 4 young officers suspended and charged with unlawful arrest. abuse of authority, assault on a detainee, and falsifying an investigation report. No more coffee and joke mornings. Now their pale, stricken faces filled news footage, dodging cameras like cornered thieves. Marcus's honor was restored in full. The Department of Defense reinstated his rank and granted full veteran privileges, housing lifetime medical care and the right to be buried in a national cemetery. One envelope bore the president's seal, hand-delivered by Halbrook himself, an invitation to speak at the annual Memorial Day ceremony in Washington. "You deserve this," Halbrook said, laying the letter on the small wooden table of Marcus's temporary room. Marcus's fingers trembled as he touched the paper, then set it down. He shook his head. "I don't need them to lift me up the way they once dragged me down," he said quietly. "Reputation doesn't heal what's been lost." He paused. "I want only one thing." "What's that?" "My badge. Give it back. It's the one thing that reminds me never to bow." Halbrook reached into his breast pocket and placed the worn seal insignia into his palm. Marcus closed his fingers around it, gripping the weight of his youth, sand and heat, explosions, comrades falling beside him. The metal was a scar, silent but unyielding. A month later, he left the city without speeches, without cameras. The Veterans Council had arranged a small white fenced home in the outskirts, sunlight pooling in the backyard. Each morning he tapped his way to the doorstep to listen to the birds. He still said he was hearing the world's music, but now the world knew his name. Over time, the children came closer. The first was a brown-haired boy of 8, once hiding behind his mother whenever Marcus passed. Now he ran up, eyes bright. "I saw you on TV. Mom says you're a hero." Marcus smiled and sat on the steps. "Want to hear a true story from the woods? About the time I swam under an ice river and almost got pulled under by a shark?" The boy's mouth fell open. Soon others gathered. Marcus became the old storyteller, not the soul-sucking monster people once whispered about, but a weathered warrior with a fire-warm spirit. One evening, with the sun painting the rooftops red, he sat under the maple tree, badge in hand. No one knew what he was thinking, but if you listened close enough, you might hear him murmur to himself, "We don't fight for glory. We fight so the world won't swallow the weak. And if that means being blind, being poor, living in the shadows, so be it. As long as what's right still stands." Marcus Gray, Lieutenant, Navy SEAL, missing in action for nearly 2 decades, returned not for recognition, but to walk quietly beside the truth he'd carried all his life. Message it. Justice isn't a gift handed down from kindness. It's a right earned through resilience. In a world where prejudice outruns the truth, blind veteran Marcus Gray, a former Navy SEAL, lived quietly, scorned, wrongfully arrested, beaten, all because of his skin color and sightless eyes. Yet in that darkness, he held on to the one thing that mattered most. His story is a warning bell against complacency, arrogance, and the blind ignorance that still thrives in modern society. Not everyone who is silent is weak. Not every elder is useless. And sometimes, the truest heroes are the ones who walk in silence, armed only with a white cane and a heart that has never stopped defending what is right.